Hi, I'm Tom Chick, and this is 1775 Rebellion. Let me show you it. This is a port. You're going to have to pardon those guys firing the muskets. I can't do anything about that. I'll tell you about that in a minute. This is a port of a board game called 1775 Rebellion, which is itself a kind of a sequel to a beer and pretzels game about the War of 1812 in Northern America called 1812 War of 1812, something like that. But that created this system of a pretty cool, elegant dice-based combat system, which I'm about to show you. That is intact here. This is the later iteration of it a few years later. And this is a port of that board game made by some folks called Hex War. They have some experience with war games. They don't seem to have much experience. These guys with their muskets. They don't seem to have much experience with ports, and we'll get into that in a moment. So yeah, I tried to look at this master volume music. Look at that, volumes all turned down, and those yahoos are still practicing with their muskets. That needs some work. I'm sure a patch could fix that up. Yeah. Let's get into a game real quick, and we don't have to listen to those guys. This is kind of beer and pretzels-y. One of the unique features of it is that it's supposed to be 4-player. Yeah, I'm not buying it. It's really a two-faction game. A two-player game with 4 factions. On America's side, there's the Continental Army and the militia. You can just, as a player, play both of these. Like, the idea is they're selling it as a 4-player game, and 2 players cooperate as the Americans, and 2 as the British. Whatever. It's 2 players for all intents and purposes. You can play these shorter games, but this is the full game right here. I'm actually going to try the British. Now, the very first time I played, I didn't know the game. I briefly read this manual. Oh, God, you guys. And that was the thing. I was reading the manual, just listening to music in the background, and I turned the music and everything down here because I just wanted to read the manual and show my music. And these yahoos are practicing with their muskets. Well, I'm just trying to read the manual. This manual is pretty good. It's mainly just the board game manual with a little tiny section on camera controls. Where did it go? Right here. But for all intents and purposes, they just put the board game manual in here, which raises some very significant problems that I'll get to in a moment. Let's see, we're going to let the AI play the Americans. We're going to be the evil Brits. We're going to play the full campaign. And thankfully, the guys who are practicing with their muskets, we're sending them to war now. They can't practice anymore. What you want to do in this game, the end game condition is dynamic. I love that about it. You're never entirely sure when it's going to end. When it does end, you want to control the most colonies. So right now it's going to be a little risky, not dangerous, but risky in that it's like the game Risk. We're just going to be dropping essentially cubes onto the map, and that's what these numbers are. Here's the preset map. This represents the situation where, let's see, the British are in New York and Boston. They are not going to be in Boston long, it looks like. They're scattered around up here in the north, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Looks like the Americans get quite the head start here. So the number of colonies you control is basically your points. When the game ends, whoever controls the most colonies wins the game. If the game were to end right now, the British would win. Because, it's really hard to see what this is asking me. So there are 4 factions. The turn order in this game, completely variable. The physical game comes with a little bag with tiles in it. There's 1 tile for each of the factions. You reach in, you draw a tile. That faction takes its turn. And that's what this is showing you right here. It's the loyalists, the British militia loyalists' turn. Then one of the other ones will be randomly drawn. When we get to the last one, they all get put back in the bag and drawn again. So that means a couple of things. One being you never know when you're going to get to go. You can't count on turn order to plan around. 2, you might get to go twice in a row sometimes. When you're the last guy, all the tiles get put back in the bag. You might be the first draw next turn. So I like that variability, that flexibility. Each of these numbers is basically a cube, and it's going to represent a die in battle. We'll get to that in a second. The red are, of course, the redcoats, also called lobsters. The yellow are the loyalist militia. They're like yellow because they're craven and cowardly, right? That's what we Americans think, of course. The blue are the American regulars, and then the white are the good, saintly militia who are pro-American. The green up here, Native Americans. I love the dynamic with Native Americans in this game. They're just parked out here hanging out, sort of like, what's you guys' deal? Oh, okay, whatever. If you march one unit in here, instead of fighting the Native Americans, you recruit them. Those become your dice. You can march them around. If you lose the guy who is quote unquote controlling them, they revert to neutral. So whoever goes in there, the Native American troops up for grabs. They can be anyone's. All right, so I get to put 4 dice. We each get to put 4 or cubes down on the board at the beginning of the game. Let's make it hard for the Americans to take Boston. Okay, now the British regulars. A little bit more in Boston. Maybe grab these Native Americans up here. Oh, I don't know. There you go. Let's see where the AI puts us. Okay, wants to hang on to Connecticut or move out of Connecticut. Investing heavily in Hartford. A little bit in New Bedford. Hartford and New Bedford again, and I think something in Rhode Island as well. South Carolina, okay. Now, it is the white player, that's the American militia's turn. So you can't really see, but there are 3, okay, they just played a movement card. There are 3 phases when it's that player's turn. First is they get their free reinforcements. Now they're doing movement. That card shows how many armies they can move, basically stacks of cubes / dice, and how far they can move them. When they move into a space, they are attacking. All right, so the different colors of dice, of course, represent different types of troops. You see here the American militia, the American regulars, the Loyalist militia, the British regulars, the redcoats. These will be Hessians, which can come into play with cards, with events, and these are Native Americans, which, as you saw, you can just run and grab them and they'll join you. These will be French troops, which come into play with cards, and these would be any Native Americans fighting for the Americans. When you attack someone, you just move your cubes with a move card into their space, and the defender gets to roll the die first. So they are about to overrun us in the Battle of New Hampshire with 4 American militia and 1 regular against 1 loyalist. I'm going to roll this die, and it's going to be one of 3 results. You can't really see here. Either a hit, meaning he has to remove one of his cubes, he gets to pick. A flee, which means this guy bugs out and lives over here in this little tray until the next loyalist turn, at which point I can deploy it with reinforcements. Or a blank face, which means nothing happens, but if I want, I can move out of that space into an adjacent friendly space. You can use that to retreat, do feints, whatever. So let's see what I roll. I got a hit, so he's going to have to remove one of his dice, naturally one of his militia. You'll note you can only roll so many dice. Oh, look, 2 of his guys ran off, haha. But he got 1 hit and took me out. So there goes New Hampshire. Okay, so here's the deal. You can only bring to bear in any given round 2 of all the dice except for the militia. Then 3 of them can be brought to bear. The trade-off, however, is the distribution of faces on different dice for those 3 results, namely hits, I'm fleeing, I run away, and blank spaces. So when we roll these, it's more likely the redcoats are going to get a hit, and the loyalists are going to cravenly run away. Let's see if that bears out. Nope, neither of them did anything. Now, here I have an opportunity to, because they call these command decisions, which is an odd name for a blank die face. I can actually move these dice to an adjacent space with friendly dudes. Can I get into New York? Yes, I could go out to New York or out to Philadelphia. New York doesn't really seem like it's threatened. Let's move them out here to Philadelphia. So instead of taking them as losses, which is probably what would have happened, they can fight later. All right, the computer is moving. So he gets to move 3 armies, 2 spaces each. I would have loved to have paused that card, but you can't do that in this game. The AI is going to go at its own speed. There is, however, this. Sorry, it's under the logo there. See this little tiny text? That's the log for the different things that are happening. There is no UI scaling. It's going to be that small all the time, so Bring your reading glasses. Battle of South Carolina, a militia and a regular attacking my two loyalists. Let's see how that goes. Watch this. They're more likely to run away. I predict they both run away. One of them, but I got a hit. So, this could go either way. A lot of it depends on the distribution of die faces, right? Oh, look, he missed. Could I take him out? No, I ran away. What were the odds of that? Well, it depends on how many flee results there are on the loyalist dice. The answer to that, I have no idea. Furthermore, the game does not tell you anywhere. Not in the manual, no place on the map that I can scroll around and look. Like you would think maybe this little cosmetic pile of dice, which does nothing, they could line that up and show me die faces. Because by the way, look at all the real estate. Look at this. This is terrible use of screen real estate. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's finish this battle. Oh, good. Yeah, we get to run away. So one thing I have discovered, where are we finding Savannah? One thing I've discovered, I really do like this game system. If we do that, we're ceding Georgia to them, but we take South Carolina. Let's stay and fight. Maybe just inflict some casualties. Aha! So even the regulars can run off. So in this tray, that means they'll be deployed during that faction's reinforcement phase. Let's see, the Battle of Maine. Don't have high hopes for this lone loyalist militia. Yeah, they ran off. Okay, so here's what you do on your turn. The first thing you do is you get 4 reinforcements. Anybody of that faction who had fled will then be included in the reinforcements. I think, but there's no way of knowing, I think there is no fled icon on the redcoat dice. I could be wrong about that. Well, of course there isn't, because there's no tray, like there's no place to put the dice when they flee. So redcoats never flee. How's that for some asymmetry? Sorry, this is now a cat-enabled video. Sorry. All right, don't worry, cat, I can edit that out, right? All right, so the first thing I do is I place my reinforcements. If I have any of these cards, I always have a hand of 3 cards. At the end of your turn, you will always draw up to 3 cards to refill your hand. So if you've got event cards, go ahead and use them. Cycle your cards more quickly. These movement cards will clog up your hand. This right here, warship movement, the 4 factions have different decks of cards, different types of cards in their decks, different events, of course. There is no way in this game to look at those. There is no card gallery. There is no discard pile that I can look at. These are strictly cosmetic. They don't do anything. I can't click on them and get an idea of what cards are in that deck. Once again, as with the die faces, it seems like the folks at Hexwar who made this game, they just assumed you already knew that stuff. Either that or you don't care. Which, not telling me what the die faces are is tantamount to asking me to play poker when I can only look at one card in my hand. I mean, what the heck, guys? Seriously. All right, so I have reinforcements to drop. Let's just hunker down a little bit in Boston and maybe... Oh, okay, where can I place my reinforcements? So the map is broken into colonies. Every colony you control, you get a point. The Americans are leading in a big way. You can tell they're shaded. If you control all the provinces or territories, whatever these are, in a colony, then you can deploy units into a city in that colony. And you will notice the cities, they have tags, and they also have this little graphic here. And those tags are helpful because if you look at some place like, look at Dover. So loyalists like squatting on the icon for the city if it didn't have that tag there, which you can turn on and off, by the way. Don't know why you'd turn it off, because then you couldn't see this sort of thing. Look at this. Albany, Rhode Island, right? Either that or it's like thinking Albany is inching towards Cape Cod. Nope, there's Albany. This is obviously a screw-up. That is Newport. So there are bugs like that. I've run into a couple of them. Not very encouraging. But that's the sort of thing they could fix easily enough, I imagine. So we have reinforcements to place. Let's see. So we can only put them in cities where we control the entire colony, which in this case is just way the heck up here or here. So what is that? Halifax, Quebec, and Montreal. Let's do that. We have a warship movement. Shoot, let me undo that. Okay, look at this. I just dropped one guy, right? If I do that, hey, it picks him up again. That's very convenient. I'm down to 4 reinforcements. Let's say I put 2 guys down, and I'm like, whoa, 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 hold on. I want to pick both of those guys back up. I can only undo once. So at least there's an undo button, but I don't understand why the functionality is limited like that. All right, we'll go into Halifax in a big way. So I'm assuming that the British deck has more of these warship movement cards than the American factions. The American factions do have naval movement, but it says something like fishing fleets, and I think they're limited to how many cubes they can move. So let's do this. Let's implement the Halifax hammer. Anyone who's played a few Acres of Snow would know that. Maybe go for Trenton and take New Jersey from them. Should we do a landing in South Carolina? No, South Carolina is not that important. Let's consolidate around here. Rhode Island, well, Trenton looks lightly defended. Let's go to Trenton. All right, so we're going to land. Oops, that's not what I meant. Cancel. Land there. How could I confuse Trenton, New Jersey, New York City? Ouch. Wait, why can't I land there? Select a Oh, it's where I'm moving from. All right, I was confused. All right, so it's how many I want to move. We'll do that. Warships don't have a limit, so we're moving a stack of 8 cubes into Trenton, New Jersey. And then we're going to have a battle here. You can only play 1 move card. If I'd played this card, I could have moved 2 armies 3 spaces. But instead, we're doing an amphibious landing in Trenton, New Jersey. Let's now fight the battle. So they get to roll first. 3 hits. That hurts. Yeah, we'll just do that because we're still... Because we want to roll... If we get rid of these, we're going to roll fewer dice. So, all right, we're going to get all 4 dice. Okay, a couple of hits. Loyalists ran off. Jerks. So they've still got 2 regulars. When you take a hit, when you inflict a hit, the other side decides who has actually been hit. So Trenton, New Jersey is now ours. They control 1 colony fewer. And we now know it will be the Loyalist turn. Look at this. We'll get 4 reinforcements in addition to the 4 cowardly Loyalists who fled from battles previously. So we can deploy 8 Loyalists, and let's break out of Trenton, right? No point dropping them up there in the frigid waste of Nova Scotia. So this map here, it's super messy, like trying to parse. Okay, where's the colony? Like, look, Maryland up in here. There's Connecticut, there's Rhode Island, with these annoying dolls that give you no information whatsoever. I mean, good Lord, I would love to turn them off. They are so incredibly redundant with the dice. These squares give you actually more information than this elaborate, detailed doll of a militiaman. This just tells me that there are redcoats present. Doesn't tell me how many. But I know that just looking here. So, I mean, look at what a mess that is. It's just so terrible. And trying to figure out, okay, where is the whole colony? Where does the solid line go? Because look at this. This is the board game board. Look how neat and elegant that is. You can tell at a glance, Maryland, New Jersey, even Rhode Island stuck up in there. And I bet it... Yeah, can you guys see? I mean, the resolution's terrible on this. That clearly says Newport and not Albany. So, and furthermore, all of that, why is all of that there? Why have we gone all the way down to the America's Dick, Florida there, when look, they didn't need it here, because this game, the board understands physical space in a way here. They have no idea look, why is so much Atlantic here? What is that accomplishing? Nothing whatsoever. So, all right, so we can drop a bunch of loyalists in. Let's just get a little crazy here. And with this massive loyalist army, we will grab Maryland to neutralize, grab Baltimore to neutralize Maryland. and also to ensure that the wire gets filmed. So we'll just use this one card that lets us move. This card moves one army 3 spaces. Wait a minute, why can't I use that? Oh, because I have to end my turn. Now we're in movement. All right, moving out of Dover. We'll just leave two guys in Dover. And here we go. The Battle of Maryland, of course. He's only got the 2 dice. He gets to go first, however. Haha, his regulars ran away. And I got a good feeling about this turn. Alright. Let's try that again. Okay. He could have just run away. Good Lord. Seriously? Oh. Man, Baltimore, haha. Wow, Baltimore really grinds him up. Now that's the thing about fleeing, is we're going to get to deploy them as reinforcements next turn. It's also the thing about Delaware, right? Like Delaware and Albany, quote unquote, Rhode Island. Where else is just one spot? Like great places to make landfall, and then just you control the whole colony when you're there, so you can deploy there. So is it just Rhode Island and yeah? Because look at New York. I mean, again, it's so messy. It goes way up here. I mean, we all know that about New York. I bet it's clearer in the map. Look here. Yeah, I mean, just the coloring definitely helps. All right, so there we go. So now it's a new turn. Here we go. Look, an event. Add 2 Native American. That, by the way, was the slowest that the AI goes. Like, why can't it pause until I click on it? You can click to make it go away more quickly, but you can't, there's no speed setting to, hey, give me time to read the cards. Although I guess I could. Look at the log here. Continental Army used event card. Oh, here, I'll move it down here. Colonel Lewis. Patriot Militia placed in. I can't, so it just lets him put a ton of Patriot Militia someplace? Alright, whatever. We're getting overrun in Trenton. Okay. Well, we'll still have Delaware. Theoretically, we could still win this if we get really lucky with the rolls. Ah. So as far as a port of a board game, as far as the board game itself, one thing that this did make me realize is I really like the board game. I love how Beer and Pretzels the combat is. I love how thematic it is with the militia, with the event cards. I just really wish the folks at Hex War had ported it a little bit better. I mean, these are really, these are the sort of mistakes that, I mean, how do you make mistakes this egregious, right? Like, if you like the board game enough to port it, how do you not know better than to not show everyone the die faces? Wow, there's quite the attack. Go AI. And why can't I see what the cards are? Oh, that's just so annoying. So, as I was saying, it did make me realize, hey, I like this board game. I would love to see a good port of it. This isn't that. Maybe it can become that with patching. I'm not sure I really feel like dealing with all of the interface problems. Although I guess as you get to know the map better, you can sort of just visually tune out these dolls that are in the way. Yeah, I don't know, it's just such a mess. So if you are hankering, though, to play a computer game that just lets you chuck dice and have cool stuff happen, let me instead recommend a couple of other things. This is a game about flying this spaceship called the Tharsis, the game is also called Tharsis, to Mars. You have different crew members, and you roll dice to deal with challenges, which are basically supply shortages and things breaking and meteors that you're banging into your ship. You're just trying to keep the ship together and keep everyone alive long enough to reach Mars. Very dice-driven. The crises that happen are basically a deck of cards. I quite like this. Very solitaire, of course. You're battling a system, not another player, which is the case with 1775 Rebellion. But as far as throwing dice, I really enjoy Tharsis. I also quite like a game called Axes and Acres. Very Euro, very sleek. Again, a solitaire game. You're battling a system. It's got a really cool meta game where the more you win, the harder the game gets. The more you lose, the lower the difficulty gets. And it involves using dice, upgrading dice, building on this little map here, getting resources. There are different kinds of these little things up here are victory things that you have to do to get victory points. They're like objectives. I really like this game a lot. It's an original game. Neither of these, Axis and Acres or Tharsis, is based on a physical game. They're both video game implementations. Now you might be thinking, but I wanted to play a game about the American Revolution. Well, if you'd like to play a solitaire game about the American Revolution, and I presume that's why you would be jumping into 1775 Rebellion to play against the AI, although it does have multiplayer. If you'd like to play a solitaire game about the American Revolution, and you are not above actually playing a solitaire board game, go to a site called whitedoggames.com and look up Don't Tread on Me. A fellow named Dave Kershaw made a solitaire game about Vietnam, and another board game designer named Ben Madison adapted that to the American Revolution, and that's what you're looking at here. It's not a very dicey game. You're not chucking dice. This is much more of a conventional war game. There's no deck of cards. Instead, you roll off of a table of events. Again, a very war-gamey thing. But thematically, I really like what it does as far as representing the American Revolution and the difference between the regulars and the loyalists. And I forget what COS stands for. It's something like Committee of Safety. It's some terrible name they had for these really crappy militia. The map does a really good job. Even though this is the map right here, by the way. Super messy. There's no aesthetic unity to it, but mostly very functional. But the map of the Eastern Seaboard has a nice bit of character once you actually learn it. Like you can't really tell from here. Check this out. I heartily recommend it. I think Ben Madison did a really good job capturing this idea of uppity rebels, and you have to go and put down their rebellion. And you have the advantage at sea, but they're constantly sneaking supplies through. And whoa, the French joined in, and aren't they a pain in the butt? It's difficult, but a solitaire game should be. It is, I should say, you can see here, it's $39. And that's not cheap for a board game. This was actually given to me by a friend. I'm not sure I would have, looking at this map, I'm not sure I would have had much confidence in the game. It's certainly not enough to spend $40 on it. But, that's between you and your $40. If you'd like a solitaire game on the American Revolution, I recommend Don't Tread on Me. I don't necessarily recommend 1775 Rebellion, the computer game port. It needs some work. These are some really rookie mistakes. Hopefully these will be patched out soon. The game's only been out a couple of days, but I can't imagine how... I mean, seriously, how do you not tell me what kinds of results I'm likely to get with these dice versus this die? Wow. You know what? I'll take that. Let's see how the Siege of Boston... Oh, shoot, they're taking Boston. See, that's what happens when I don't pay attention. I guess that's one thing you get with the silly dolls is, yeah, see, look, they get to shoot and die. Let's see, he got one hit. We'll do that. This isn't looking good. I could get lucky. Stupid loyalist militia. Wow, yeah, look at all the loyalist militia that have built up to get to be redeployed. Rats, there they go. Well, so much for Boston. So much for Trenton. We still have Dover. So, 1775 Rebellion by Hexwar, available on Steam. Needs some work. What a mess that is. If you liked this video, like it. Click on that little thumbs up. I appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel, and I also really appreciate that. You can find me on Twitter at QT3. Stuff that I write is at quarter-to-3.com. And I'd really appreciate it if you check out my Patreon campaign at patreon.com/TomChick. And I'll be what event is this? Hessian reinforcements. Here we go. Add 2 Hessians plus all fled Hessians. Well, there aren't any of those. Oh, flavor text. Thanks for watching. I will have more of these. maybe these dolls aren't so terrible. That's a pretty good looking militiaman right there. Look at that red coat. That's not so bad after all.